And I tried to pause, but apparently I hit stop instead. So I've got one more thing for you to think about. When you're thinking about Reconstruction and Reconstruction of the South, and in this time period of post-1865 to really 1876 is the time period we're talking about, think about who is being reconstructed and the different perspectives of people, right? So if you're from the North, they're going to have a very different perspective about Reconstruction than Southerners. Right? Northerners, many Northerners wanted the South to be punished. Remember, the Civil War, more Americans died during the Civil War than all of our other wars put together, in large part because everybody fighting was an American, right? Um, Northerners are going to have a very different perspective. They want the South to shape up. They lost. They need to give up. They need to do what they're told, and take, do what the North wants them to do. Right? Southerners are going to have a very different perspective. Obviously, they don't want to be punished. They want things to change, but it depends who you are in the South. Right? So wealthy whites are going to have a very different perspective on what Reconstruction is, what Reconstruction should be, compared to poor whites. And yet another perspective is going to be free blacks or former slaves. Right? They're going to have very different perspectives on this. The wealthy whites, they don't want anything to change. They don't want anything to be reconstructed. They want to keep their wealth. They want to keep their land. They want to keep their power, no matter what. Poor whites, they want to have the opportunity to farm. They want to have the opportunity to live, maybe not be poor. And remember, a lot of poor whites didn't support the Civil War, didn't support the South in the Civil War, especially in the mountain South of East Tennessee, northern Georgia, especially western North Carolina, that whole mountain South, if you think of the Appalachian mountain chain. The poor whites there were actually for the Union. They didn't support the wealthy whites, who often got in their way. And then the third group is going to have very different perspective. The free blacks, the former slaves, they're going to definitely want the wealthy whites to be punished. They're going to want land to be redistributed and taken away from the wealthy whites. The wealthy whites in the South are the ones who started the Civil War, fighting to keep their slaves. So these three groups are going to have very different perspectives. Now, if you think about the logic of it, poor whites and the former slaves or free blacks, they have the most in common. Right? They economically have the most in common. Socially, they have the most in common. But the wealthy whites see an opportunity to gain support and to regain and keep their power. And so they use racism against blacks to get those poor whites to work with them, to get them to ignore their own economic and social realities and look only at race and stick with them. So it's really, if these two groups, if the free blacks and the poor whites had stuck together in the Reconstruction period and in the years afterwards, we would probably be living in a very different place when it comes to race relations, when it comes to economics and social realities. But in this time period, the wealthy whites were able to convince poor whites to stick with them. Okay, so when you're thinking about this Reconstruction, think about what we're reconstructing and why. Why does it need to be reconstructed? How should it be reconstructed? And all the different ideas about Reconstruction that you see. The President Lincoln's plan, Andrew Johnson's plan, radical Reconstruction with the Republican Congress. Think about all those different realities. Think about that social, political, and economic aspects of it. Where are those pieces of society being hit by Reconstruction? And then think of the different perspectives, the different points of view of Northern Americans, especially those who are in politics, versus Southerners, and then those different groups of Southerners. Okay. We'll have a chance for you to ask me some more questions, and I'll put a little bit more information in there, but hopefully this will get you started and have fun thinking about Reconstruction. It's a really important period of American history. Okay, thanks.